Welcome back. Now, for those of you who might need more than a book to help you get back on the straight and narrow, there are a number of more involved therapies out there that aim to provide a more lasting solution to your problems. Now, my next guest has experienced her fair share of problems and has used her technique of self-mastery to not only cleanse herself of cancer, but also to come to terms with the untimely death of a 16-year-old daughter. Jenetta Berry, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Wow. Now, one of the workshops that you offer is called Succeeding Through Adversity.
Yeah.
Now, we've just mentioned, the death of your daughter, at 16 years of age. You had cancer. Your experience of that, obviously, is just, very large, really big experience of this.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
I've actually had three, I would really say, rather major things happen in my life. The one was 10 years ago. I was operated for a routine hysterectomy, and when they opened me up, they found that I had cancer in the uterus and that it was starting to spread to the abdomen, into the glands at the aorta there. And what it led me to was to start questioning where illness comes from and why and how and so on, because I was determined that this was going to be released. And I had read so much before about it, but not been able to apply it. So I started researching, and within myself, I actually found out that that particular cancer had stemmed from abuse I'd had when I was 7. So it really came home that when you look at illness, in fact, the very word dis-ease means you're not at ease with yourself, which comes from the emotions, not feeling emotionally at ease. And the more I studied it, the more I could see the correlation, with the result that I have not been ill for years and years and years.
Yeah. So cancer was the first one.
Yeah.
That was a big.
Yeah, the biggie.
Big one for you.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
Jen.
Yeah. Your daughter passing away.
Yeah. And in actual fact, I'm quite happy to say to you, she actually committed suicide. So it was quite a big process to deal with.
Yes, I'm sure.
And I think in some ways I'm very fortunate, because I've obviously dealt with many people since then. And,
yes.
You get some parents who go, but they were so happy and I had no idea, and now they've just gone because they didn't even tell us they had a problem. Fortunately for me, Jen came to me when she was 14 and said, I've got a major problem. I've got an eating disorder, 2 eating disorders, and I'm suicidal, and that's it. And in actual fact, it was her 4th attempt. She and I had a huge argument, and she was packing to leave home when I sensed something wasn't right and walked into her room and found her hanging in the shower. So there was a huge anger issue there, obviously my anger, and a synergy of anger between my now ex-husband, because that's the third thing that happened. I got divorced 14 months ago. My ex-husband and I, and that anger synergy. So
that
what
was just working within the home.
Yeah, like that. So I came across this process 9 months after she died, when I met up with Dr. DiMartini, John DiMartini, who's featured in the book and the film The Secret. And John worked the collapse process with me. He calls it the quantum collapse process. And I trained and worked with him after that as well with my stuff. So I use his stuff to complement the other bits and pieces that I also do.
Of course.
But I can honestly say that I am now at a place where I can see as many gains in that loss as the loss. And that's not saying that the loss isn't there, it's a lifetime process.
Yes.
And there are times where it's a little bit more prominent than other times.
Yes,
but it's in a place of balance.
Okay. All right. Now, with the form of self-mastery that you advocate, there's a scientific basis to it. Can you explain how that works, and as simple as possible?
Because
it
gets very
when it comes to science, my brain goes.
Well, I think you in the world, unless you're a scientist. The process is a series of very scientifically put together questions that actually discharge that charge you have on a conscious and an unconscious level. What happens with this process is it's a series of questions that take you through to negative, back to positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, so that instead of being extremely charged, charged, you're seeing the value of both negative and
both,
positive in a situation.
Both sides almost.
And you see how the positive serves you and doesn't serve you, and how the negative doesn't serve you and serves you.
And then from there...
And there you go into this place unconsciously and consciously. It's not just in theory.
Okay, all right. What would you say are the advantages of, you know, doing this,
well, at the end of the day, when you have a place where you can move forward with things feeling at ease and not in dis-ease, and things are more spontaneous, then it has a profound effect in all areas of your life, and you start attracting that which serves you.
Yeah, and that's touching on the secret. I mean, I'm hearing this because I do read these books.
Yeah.
So as you're speaking, there are many things that are just popping up in my mind. And for example, for myself, and I think this is like in the mid-90s, I was going through this, what's going on? I don't understand anything. Why am I here?
Yeah.
And a friend gave me Conversations with God. I read the book in an evening. I couldn't put it down.
And it made sense to you.
And it made sense to me. But you see, again, it was like the purpose-driven life that I bought the book, but I haven't been able to read it. And I think books arrive, that's the relationship I have with books, but books arrive when it's time for you to read them, when you're ready to read them. Without a doubt, hey?
In fact, sometimes they even fall off bookshelves. You go, whoa, they sort of go ding, and you go, okay, here's the next message, the next step.
This is the one. What kind of issues do individuals present to you? I mean, obviously you've been working in this, in self-mastery for quite a number of years. What do individuals come and say to you?
This was a very interesting one, and I know they won't mind me mentioning it.
Okay.
This young boy of 21 came to me and said, I'm working in a place that's going well, but I'm also building my own business. But I know that the one thing that's holding me back is that about mid-afternoon, I have to go outside the premises and sit down and smoke weed. I have to do it. I can't not do it. So how, and I know it's holding me back, apart from the fact that I'm not in my workplace. It's holding me back, and how do I do that? So we sat down together and worked the process so that he could see as many advantages to what was happening as there were disadvantages on all levels. It was a very interesting process to see.
Okay, so when that happens, you give the advantages and the disadvantages, and then what? Do you leave the individual to then make
they do the process
the decision
there and then.
themselves?
Let me explain a step further back from this. It's actually a form of reverse psychology, but it's not just theoretical. It's really deep as well.
Yeah.
You know, when you say to a group of children, see over there, that's out of bounds. You are so not allowed there. Have you ever watched the body language? They're like magnets.
Yeah, they go.
And they're there going, why can't we be there? And what's the intrigue? And so that's exactly what we do in everything in our life that we then put a label to say we're not allowed to do. There's a part of us that goes banned, deny, can't do it, and then you go, can't help myself, got to have that next cigarette. You know, the next cream bun has to just get crammed in.
Yeah.
It's basically that on a deeper level, so that you're not just sitting there going, I get the theory, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. So did he get off the weed?
He did.
You know.
So now it's turning around as people realise that nobody can fix them, because it only is temporary.
Yeah, it starts with you.
So that's the newer stepping into, is finding those tools and techniques to be able to balance yourself out and empower yourself.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when you shift, everything shifts around you by default, not by you doing it.
And then, of course, from there, you became not the motivational speaker, but the inspirational speaker.
Yes, that's correct.
Brilliant stuff.
Really interesting.
Jenetta, thank you so much. We're going to continue a conversation, I'm sure, in the future. And we'll be right back.